that should convert to, get rid of this. That should convert to Soulogy. Yeah. Okay, so we are live. Let me just get some engineering done, then I'll intro real quick. This is the this is, let me get everything right. Uh-oh, what's going on? Okay, there it goes. All right. Okay, so this is the Soulogy Spotlight Show of the Week, Soul Speaks 5D. We're going to do one of these every week on all of our social media platforms. And let me just pull the other one up real quick, live with Susan, so I can see comments from both Facebook and YouTube. Okay, good. All right, so yeah, every week we have a Soulogy Spotlight Show of the Week, Soul Speaks 5D. And this week it's our beautiful beloved sister, Susanne, Amara. We've probably done 15 shows over the years. And like so many people, it doesn't matter where you are, everybody's having massive transformations, massive, detachments in the true sense of the word of the things that we're leaving behind. And it's getting easier to just leave them behind. But yeah, so we're honored to have Susanne Amara on. I believe this might be the 89th or 90th show on our new platform, Soul Speaks 5D show. So for those of you who haven't been to soulagynetwork.com, go check it out. There's new stuff happening all the time. You don't have to subscribe to check it out. You can see what we're doing. And we've got some really big announcements coming up this month. And stay tuned. We've got a Soulogy Fest in December 8th, 9th, and 10th in Houston, Texas, which we got people from all over the world coming. But right now, let's set our sights as we time travel in the present moment to Thailand and see what Susanne Amara is up to over there. What's happening, Susanne?
Hello, Todd. Well, thank you for that introduction. Wow. So yes, I'm joining you today from Koh Phangan. It's a little island off the coast of the mainland of Thailand. It's one of 3 islands, and it's a crystal island. So it's really powerful. Sometimes I've been described as saying it resembles that series Lost. You know, you come for a few weeks and you stay for a lifetime. It's a little bit like that, and it's a common story here. So my story is no different because I was only supposed to be here for 4 weeks. And here I am several months later. Yeah. So last time you saw me and I was on the show, I was in Egypt. I was on a mission, on a land mission in Egypt, which I couldn't talk about too much, but it unfolded. And shortly after we spoke, I had a huge Kundalini experience. And it was completely life-changing, as anyone that's had those sorts of experiences or, you'll know it just really burns so much away. And so
how long ago was
resistance away. So that was February 22 when we spoke.
Okay, February
22. So I was in Luxor at the time.
Has it been that long since we did?
It really has. Yes, it really has.
I would have thought it was like February this year. How crazy is that? It's like no time has passed. This is part of what's happening. Wow. Thank you. Continue.
Yeah. So I went into a kind of state where it was like a samadhi. I couldn't really move. I was just with God. And even just bringing it up and going back to it raises emotion because it was profound. And after that, I really dedicated myself to God in that moment, to shed all the false layers and the overlays and the thoughts and the things that we carry, like that we all carry and we're all still clearing. We're not free of it. It's that we're moving towards that. So I started to really see, and really look at my own ego, look at where those things were formed in my body, and dedicating this year and the process now very much embodiment in my own body. yeah, it changed everything. So it got to the point where I could see the like the flight paths of birds were golden spirals. I could feel, it was like I could just feel everything, and everything was so loud. It was quite overwhelming. I couldn't integrate very easily for a while. So I carried on with that, and then I went back to the UK, and then I was planning to go to Göbekli Tepe. So I had a land mission that was given to go back to Göbekli Tepe in the December, and then onwards and back to Egypt to finish northern Egypt, because I still had to do some work near Alexandria and on the Libyan border. So I knew I was going to go back there, really to help me complete some old work with this scene. And then I just got this massive change of direction. It was like, just before the earthquake, you don't need to go there. And otherwise I would have been on the ground there. And it really shook me, because I started to listen even more to what was going on, rather than, perhaps believing in a mission. It was like, oh, it can change at any moment. It's just, we've got to be in the moment now. So I knew I had to pack. I knew I had to let go of everything. This was very hard, because I did feel that I would be away for a long time from my children, and I was letting go of a lot of things. I didn't know how it would look, and then my friend suggested that we meet up in Thailand, and I was completely resisting to Thailand. There's a whole nother story running alongside this, which I'll come on and share with Dalton, but I was just resisting coming here, essentially, and so we were going to start this as our world traveling. We were going to travel from here down through Asia to the South Pacific, because I wanted to go to Tonga, because I have some work there, and then onwards towards Hawaii to finish and complete, because I really want to complete those timelines of the Lemurian body, bring them together with all the work that I did with the Atlantean body in Europe. So I felt this was completely aligned, and then maybe up to America, New Zealand, we were really open anyway. But I came here, and my life turned inside out. I'm completely upside down. I'm still here working it out. So it's been quite a journey, Todd, quite a massive journey, but I'm mostly focused inwards. I've been changing my structure. I'm embodying a different light structure. It's very very big on the body, and I'm having to make a lot of changes and see myself in a very raw way to maintain the configurations of the energy that we're embodying.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think a lot of people can relate to what you're talking about, or feel it coming on. You talk about a lot of things that have been very evident recently, especially since March, I would say. The deep dives, the confrontation, or the confrontation of the ego, of really seeing ourselves in ways that we only attributed to other people, and then really diving into this space of oneness that isn't just what we all know internally, eternally, but also what we have in common through the human experience, which is we share all the same energies, because if as we are refining and moving towards, you could say, towards perfection, we're still discovering the value of the imperfection of being a human being, and things such as perpetrator and victim, empath and narcissist, masculine and feminine, all of these things are within us. And the letting go part has been kind of a surprise, I think, to a lot of people, because they're like, why does this keep coming back? And it's because we're not letting go of the past, so, we can trade war stories of how we afflicted and hurt each other, or how others have been afflicted and hurt, and, oh, look at those bad guys. Or we can understand that they all fall under the umbrella or the tent of the experience itself, and that if we are in judgment of anything or anyone, we are in judgment of the experience, and we're that much further from our own expansion. So I think your testimony 5 minutes into this, it just got me like buzzing. But yeah, I wanted to ask you, because I haven't really heard it, and I think you're carrying it because I can feel it. These things that have occurred since this Kundalini, and I'm talking about the massive influx of light, or the allowance of a massive greater portion of light through us, as we, the chakra channel is clear, because obviously you kicked it up a notch. Certain things come with it, and it sounds like you're learning to incorporate that in your life and in your being and in your field. But many of us are, and I guess we all are, still contending with the ins and outs of what it is to contend or be confronted by our own ego. It's a lot of humble pie. It's a lot of resistance, and I can't believe it. I can't believe it. It can't be me. It can't. This has to be true. This has to be true about that person. I'm about to go into a huge opportunity in the core of my lineage with, and this is blood relations. An uncle has transitioned, and so I'm walking into that space that so many of us know that we were the odd one, but it's a very big, a direct family and immediate family and extended family. But there's a major player that's been presented to me that has, by the old perspective, by the 3D perspective, has been a huge victimizer, and who has perpetrated, from the old vernacular, my own child in the worst of ways. And I've been told by my soul to step into this situation and carry what I see in you. And thank you. And everybody else that's coming to the party, because we're all here. And I understand that, I don't know what's going to happen, but it might be something like, I want you to know I know what happened. I want you to know I love you unconditionally, and I forgive you. We got to practice what we preach, and we got to walk the talk and let the shit go.
That's it. It's feeling, I think when you can feel it in yourself, what happens is, as you de-armor, as we're facing all of the archetypes, particularly, like the controller, the narcissist. This is what we were doing in Dragonscape when I first met Dalton. It was crazy, because I was facilitating and facing my own controller, like at the deepest level. It's disarming, to say the least. That when the armory of the inner heart goes, and you've got this diamond sun architecture that you can begin to feel in your own inner marriage, in the stages that we're in, you're just stepping into this space, then you can feel it in other people. So whatever is presenting to you, even if they're being a complete arse to you, in your heart that underneath that is the same body. It's the same body. We are the same body, and therefore you can only have compassion really for it within a healthy boundary. You can use nonviolent communication. You can choose your words carefully. You can choose when to stay silent and non-reactive to something. And it's holding the energy is what changes it. We don't need to say a word. We can affect a whole room simply by being in compassion and holding that light, holding the life force. And that's what I'm starting to realize, coming out of my hermit room and temple that I built for myself to write the codes of the avatar alchemy. I needed to be inside in an enclosed temple environment, which is what I did. But now I'm here in real life, in life, on the ground, in the wild, like with people, like every day, in seeing all the different layers, all of the programs, like the entities, the implants. It's there. It's completely like see-through. And how can you not have complete compassion with it all? Because we're all doing this together, even though everybody's in the completely unique experience, and some people are really suffering. You really get to see that, like, that's our suffering on a morphogenic level, but we don't have to suffer. There's a difference. We don't have to, we're choosing not to suffer, we're choosing to hold this template of inside, but then by holding it and meeting the person where they're at, then we've got this energy field that can open, and that is without any forcing or any superimposition. We're just holding compassion, a compassionate witness, and listening.
Yeah.
And in that's the miracle. That's what I find now in life, in sessions, you know, like it's very rare that I do any hands-on healing, anything like that now, or just being. It's beautiful, really, because we're working with everything, you know, the whole of nature. If we're in a, you know, this natural environment, I have the whole of the land and the nature, and I just feel it's all very seamless instead of bifurcated and fractured. But I can play in the parts. Don't get me wrong. If I'm in a program, I'm totally in the program. I really see it. And, you know, having Dee as a reflector of those programs, are particularly the cosmic programs, the things that come up, or the injured and the wounded cosmic child. Oh, it's like such a big, powerful modeling for us, because we realize we're bringing all of time, infinite time, to bend on this little fulcrum of the human experience. So instead of those things that were perhaps difficult, challenging, hurtful, you know, take things so personally, it becomes depersonalized, and you just see, oh, that's the thing I carried, and then you see the impact of it, and you can forgive it, and that's then it's no longer attracting that sort of thing. You become a non-attractor of those experiences. They're only really attracting what we're carrying. So
yeah,
when you get that, it's such a big bomb when it drops there, isn't it? Because it's just like nothing is a problem. There's no pain, there's no suffering. I mean, it's just shit if you're on the floor, like, you know, purging, or your body is like hurting because you've got to move some strong energy out. But you know you're going to get through it, because you know you're the creator. You're the creator of your experience.
Well, and use this word witness that's been coming up a lot for me since March. Because there is a difference, there's a distinct difference. I can't speak to the definition of judgment in 5D plus, but I can say that here there is part of the shedding away is judgment, because there's a difference between listening to somebody and even using the words holding space. Because holding space, we've already got a judgment there, that something's wrong with somebody. And you know what I mean? I think witnessing is the word, because witnessing is without judgment. It's truly compassion, and it's truly freeing, because we are now utilizing a mirror in a more comfortable and advantageous way, because we're recognizing something in this person. A load is being lifted by witnessing their self-awareness, you know, and I think that's a powerful thing. It's also a kind of a weird transition as we make these glitch type you know, jumps through, you know, gateways, stargates, you know, whatever, because a lot of, as we do that, for instance, apologies. Something happens, I apologize. And the minute that I apologize, and it's witnessed without judgment, without doubt, without suspicion, but with true unconditional love, no judgment, pure compassion, because where there is pure compassion, there can be no judgment. Once that is done, the apology doesn't even exist anymore. Forgiveness doesn't even exist anymore, because we've let it go. You know, we have so many narratives, and so many people are getting downloads and memories coming in, you know, particularly of something like you're talking about Lemuria a minute ago, but, you know, even in Atlantis, you know, the violations that occurred, even the violation that occurred with the mother, because that's really one and the same for everyone. once she was violated, we're all violated. Everybody,
All of
you know
it.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And so even that point of separation, or you know, where things shattered, or whatever you want to call it, is part of the design. And truly, there are no perpetrators, there are no victims. And this is something that, you know, that isn't necessarily new. But if you look at the Gnostics, these scenes, I mean, there's other movements that carry this forward to the best of their ability. But we're at a place now where there are many, many, many of us that are willing to keep stepping into this truth, even if the world tells us that we're crazy, because now the world looks crazy. It looks like, you know, and we can all speak for our own experiences, but many of us can talk about the attraction that especially facilitators that have come on the show this year, these last few months, because they're seeing people walk in the door that were once adversarial to them, that made fun of them, that are looking for real answers because they're having their own revelations and epiphanies coming in. So it's powerful, and it's very, very humbling. And I got to say, and maybe it's too strong of a word, but it has the same etymology. It's as if we have to get past any perceived humiliation to integrate and to zero point that humility and get to that humility, because you can't fake that humility. It's real. You can't say I've cleared something and then you know, go back into the same loops of judgment, because as everyone's finding out, it's getting louder and louder and louder. And it sounds like that's where you went.
Yeah, I liken it to the motorbike with people. So, you know, like in the time matrix that we're in, so like say like the most prevalent stories are Lemuria and Atlantis. These are like the fall stories, the conflict stories, and also the beautifully expansive skill set stories, because we had one technologically advanced, one very much with creation and nature and alchemy. So they're just reflecting, they're like big avatar bodies, and they've been repeated cycles. I don't believe in the one earth. There's been many iterations of this simulation. So we are in an amazing opportunity to unify time. And you know, the original split on the mother was up in the angelic body. So, you know, we're just telegraphing this down into a human avatar and carrying in our DNA, or, you know, even if it's been a little bit messed with, which is part of why we're here to bring the alchemy. We're here to create this insane, beautiful magic. So what we've got is, you know, that some have chosen to come here to do that, to take on that modeling. It doesn't make anyone better or less than or anything else. And some people have come to learn through suffering, or learn through addiction, or learn through something very, very particular, even though it never, you know, it feels so victimizing when someone says you've chosen this and it's your shit. I know when I was working through my own trauma, I did not want to hear that. I did not want to hear that in victim, because I was in so much pain. So when we have this expanded heart and we realize this, it's just like you realize it, but you realize when someone is in front of you and they've been in the suffering, and you know they've defended, because all anger and shit and judgment, it's just coming from pain. It's coming from immense amounts of cosmic pain, slavery, attachments, all those things that we know. So people are asking questions because there's nowhere else to go, because the bite was slow. And it was okay at first. We could amble and wobble, and, you know, we could veer off around the sides and go our own way. And now we have huge influx of energy. We're going very, very fast. So if you wobble on a bike when you're going fast, you're off. You fall off. You can't maintain stability at this speed. If you wobble, you wobble. And I find this in myself. I'll smash against the wall if I ignore it, if I don't listen to the reflection or the signal, you know, and I got some kind of, I'm making myself busy or ignoring it or doing anything other than look in the direction I need to go, then, you know, it gets hot very quickly.
Right.
It's humbling. So people that haven't necessarily haven't necessarily been engaged with the work up till now. That's their time. It's not because they've been lazy or, you know, I don't have those types of views at all. I think everyone has their own time. And I feel that when the outside world now is, you know, having the properties that it has, that we've created and contributed to, we're all contributors to that and investors in that, then many people are asking questions, and quite rightly so. You know, what the hell is going on? People are waking up and seeing through reality. They're literally seeing through reality, and they're like, what the actual fuck is going on? Am I having a psychotic episode? Is one of the most common questions that I have when people message me and they're like, I haven't got a clue what's going on. And people turning up for, you know, we've done journeys with people, and watch them shift, watch literally just watch the entities leave, you know, without us having to, you know, necessarily command them out, just holding the yana body, holding the conduit open with love, and it's with love, then people can straighten out very quickly. We're no longer in the territory of having to do apply activations on people, or you know, tell them that they're not good enough. You know, I really, it hurts my heart because I've been through it. You know, I've stepped through that myself. I've had all those same feelings. You know, I was told I was completely broken and hooked into AI and all sorts of shit, and because I believed it, I created a reality that kept me in even longer, because I wasn't given the confidence to know that I had the power within me. That's all it is, that it's been, a society has degraded this through distraction and through judgment. So it's a big shift. I think it's a big human shift. If we can't accept each other and love each other, we've got no chance of unity. So I'm here for unity. That's what I'm here for.
No, there's a convergence occurring, and you know, for instance, in this convergence, like for instance, there's less and less talk of, oh, the masculine, oh, the feminine, oh, this, you know what I mean? There's a convergence, and I think part of it occurs, and I'm not saying that we all turn into androgynous physical beings. I don't know how it goes, but what I do know is that we start to look at ourselves without any differentiation. That means we look at each other, and you mentioned this earlier with the way you were coming out of it, where you see people for what they are. You see beneath, as we say, the shadow. You see beneath the programming. The programming is not a bad word. It was something that was put together by a beautiful orchestration that we all had a hand in to do exactly what you said, and that was to find this power within in a new fashion, in a more universally born fashion. Because I love what you said earlier about how the original corruption took place in the angelic. And we are kind of like the last ripple, like the lowest. But there's a term in, I believe it's in accounting. I have to go back into my memory banks from I went to college. And it's an accounting method, inventory accounting method, last in, first out. So here we are, the last ripple, the last echo that you would think is, oh, that's the smallest, it's the furthest from the place it took place. But the truth is, like you said, all of that is in our DNA. And so we become the last thread, but the first one out. And that means that what we're producing in this collective creation is something that's never occurred before, regardless of what people think of time and space, or that everything happens at once. The only thing we have is the present. And we can either continue to ride the loops, or we can continue to do what we're doing. And that's where, at a minimum, there's a small minority in this world. And any of us know that are in this field that even if we haven't seen full hard proof of it, we know in our sensitivities that one soul that has a clear chakra channel, that is Kundalini energy is flowing, which means that the earth and the heavens are united within our body, is the power of hundreds of thousands of human beings. We have huge fields. We're giants. And there's so many things we can point to, but I love the way it's drip, drip, drip. These subtle things are shown to us, especially like what you're talking about with the ego, how these subtle things that we do, like you mentioned control. Like there's a lot of things that we do that we don't associate with being in control or having to be in control that we do. Having to be, you know, I mean, I could go into a lot of different examples, but I wanted to ask you a question. In your evolution, in your relationship with your own ego, did you discover, and I know this might not be the right word, but did you discover voices of it that you thought were something of a higher nature? Let's put it that way. Voices disguised. And could you elaborate on that if you can recall any of it?
Very much. What a great question, Todd. And it's actually so relevant, isn't it? Because wow. Yeah, I feel my experience right now has led me to question the nature of reality itself.
Right.
And the reality that we experience, and the way that our brain chemistry, and particularly the hippocampus and the medulla oblongata and the pons, all of the systems that control our endocrine systems and our biochemistry, are very easily hackable. So I feel that the ego is like part of the program. It's part of the program of being human, because I'm aware that I'm human and non-human at the same time.
Right, right.
So that space of human and the human egoic experience is completely immersive. So when we talk about other aspects that seem real, that maybe on what they seem, as in we might regard them as, the only way we describe them is dark, but I don't see it like that. So things that are not constructive to helping us in our objective experience, because remembering everything is perfect and perfectly designed. So yes, I have had these experiences from a young age. So as a young age, I feel that I was dealing with an extraterrestrial hive, and that what I thought was perhaps beings that were helpful were not helpful at all, really, even though they were helpful, because everything is perfect at the same time.
They were part of your evolution. They were necessary parts of you. Yeah.
They were a necessary part of my evolution that I choose, so I can assist and support and help people now with exactly the same experiences to come out of the miasma, because it's a farm and it's a miasma. It's a form of hiving.
Were they trauma
siphoning?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Trauma induced, through sexual abuse.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Okay, so
totally,
God,
yeah.
I'm so glad to be getting into these.
It totally fragmented me, and also in gestation. I'm really happy to talk about it. In gestation, when I was in my mother's womb, at 6 months gestation, my father attacked my mother, and I was aware of that, and I fragmented slightly in that. So I wasn't, when I came in, my soul didn't completely drop in. There was part of me that stayed out, and it just created havoc. It just created a life of illness. And so going back to your original question, from the outset, now I realize there were experiences that I thought maybe were not protective, that they were actually siphoning, and but they were all to teach me. Later on, for sure, I went through the standard plethora of false angelic guides, archangels, things that appear to be helpful and benevolent, but they're not wrong and they're not bad. Nothing can be, but they just are not necessarily always here. I created them for my own experience. I created whole experiences that I believe were part of the ego facet, in order to train me about all of the bits that were broken, essentially, so I could come back to them. I mean, everything pointed back to the bits that were, not really broken, but the things that just weren't straight, that couldn't get the flow of the energy, because I don't know how else you're going to see it. Particularly I would often meet, some of the guys were genuine and obviously beautiful parts of me, but some of them not, and you can't differentiate at first, because you're getting energy signals. And one of the things that I think is important, and I have written about it and I'll continue to write about it, is this hijacking of the biochemistry, because when you're in it, it's like you're having an illusionary hallucination. You cannot tell the difference. Your pleasure systems are being pleasured. Your dopamine reward systems are being inundated. So you think you're having a nirvana, you think you're having an amazing, uplifting, beautiful experience. This is good because it feels good. We have to develop better systems, and that's only done through stillness. It can only be done through silence, through practice, through breath work, and learning to feel the difference. Because it's like short reward sex, isn't it? You go for the kill and it's great, and at the time it feels wonderful, but in the long term it's got no benefit really whatsoever for the system or for the collective system. But this is all part of the system. So the AI, particularly the AI overlay, is part of the system. And not this whole thing about it being a war is just the war inside. It's unresolved trauma. It's unresolved trauma from the fall. And it's not even a fall, it's just the split of the staff and the rod. So it became convoluted and confused. So we forgot each other.
Yeah. We forgot ourselves. And it's
very common though. Sorry.
Yeah. No, there's a lag. There's a lag because of the distance. No, I was just going to say that, I'll use myself as an example. Because to me, and I've said this a lot, there's enough information there. Let's accept things and get on with it, kind of thing, like almost like get over it. And I think that's too harsh. So it's taken me to a deeper level of compassion and understanding that not everybody's built like me. There's things that you do and understand at a greater level of awareness and, actuality than I do, and vice versa. And that's true for everybody. So I keep going back to the well and that dialogue between my soul and, I would call it, just for my own terms, my human soul, because I don't know if it's a soul, but it's definitely got, it's like a container within the container or something. And maybe this is one voice talking to itself back and forth. I don't know, but it's this judgment thing. We think of judgment and we think of, it in a lot of different ways, but it really is not something that is natural to our nature. It's a byproduct of this divinely orchestrated split, this thing that occurred as the root, at least the last 15,000 years, as the root of our experience. And you're right, it's almost like a giant ego, as we all have an implanted ego. It's like the equalizer, you know what I mean? Because the reason I asked the question is because of my own experience and even what I've observed, that certainly some voices that even had the high road go away because they become embodied. But by the same token, these voices that are not us, they're still just at another end of the spectrum. They're still going to keep screaming and hollering and showing themselves until they are acknowledged. They're just as much a point of reverence, just as much a point of God, than the things that are woo-woo and fluffy love and light, so it's a respect for the entirety. That's why I say, if I'm in judgment of you, or if I'm in judgment of anything, I'm in judgment of the experience, and therefore I'm in judgment of God itself. So I know that sounds like, oh, well, but the difference is And I think we're unique in this situation. I don't know that Jesus went through it, or Magdalene, or some of the other prophets and prophetesses. And that is the internal unraveling and realignment of not just our original template, divine template, but an expanded version of it, because of the living library that we experienced and transformed is our offering to an expanded earth, or expanded self, or soul, or universal. And so I guess that's my way of saying we're doing the work. We're doing the work, and that's what it's come down to. So this silence and the solitude and the isolation that so many people are experiencing, even if it's just part of the day, is so powerful. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 5 hours, but all the information's coming through, and it's like, it's almost like shadow work, and zero pointing was a full-time job for a long, long time. And then the first of the year came, and all of a sudden it was a totally different place. And I started to notice it with Soulogy, because I was told on the 1st of March, you got to leave social media. And then all the human programming came up from that, going, oh my God, what do we do? How do we do, and all that. But what I noticed was that slowly, organically, surely, deliberately, steadily, collaboration, co-creation, the reality and existence of the third energy were all becoming more and more and more evident, and it's growing and growing and growing. But we have, well, I don't want to say have to or need to, but when we engage the third energy, which is the universal, which is everything outside of me, as an equal play partner in our triad, be that triad with me and you and the third energy, or whatever the case may be, where two or more gather, it's showing itself in big ways. It really is. It's showing itself in really big ways. And you're experiencing that, which is...
Yeah, it's fast, isn't it? It's instant. Well, it's instant. Me and Dalton will come on and share, and we'll tell this is all about this. It's literally like, once you stop fighting with creation as a creator, and you bring yourself into resonance, yes, you get shown all your shit even more, even deeper. You think you've done the work, and if you haven't, it's just going to keep showing up. But with that, alongside that, is the greatest reverence for how fast things drop in. Literally, it's like we're opening things, we're opening ways in which we are being asked to serve, and we're sitting there and going, how are we going to manifest this? And then there's somebody there, there's something there, and or there's an opportunity or a situation, people offering to do things for the first time. Like, we've had things manifest. Even when I was with Susie, we were in there was, at first, it's been a lot about dragons. The whole situation here is about dragon, ice dragon energy. And when we landed, we were in the jungle. We went in a remote house in the jungle, and it's up a track, nobody really knows it's there. And we're walking up, and we're in our house. They come out the second morning. There's a little green dragon statue on the floor up this dirt track. Like, how nobody knows it's there? It was just such a beautiful... There's been so many things like that. We see stuff appearing all the time, and it's real, and particularly with people, I notice it much more with signs. Even someone just saying something. For example, we were meditating a week or so ago, and we were just refining the name that we're going to use for our container. So it's coming in, we're playing with it, we're feeling it, and then we get some aha moments, and then our neighbours, who don't speak that often, suddenly say, great idea, or something. Like, it's like, okay, we're on it. And then the cloth that is like a screen, it starts to brush my skin, and you're starting to be open to how creation is this in this total synergy, this amazing space. And obviously I'm very lucky because I live in nature. I've gone back to nature. I've dropped out to come and live in a very remote, seemingly remote, not like too remote, because otherwise I wouldn't be on here, but enough to live with the elements. And it creates what I noticed from, I lived in a city, so in between Egypt and here, I lived in Birmingham, UK, 5G in the middle of the city, completely training myself. I used to sit in the middle of the city, like learning to hold myself still, learning to see through the layers for months. It's a good 18 months. Then coming here, it's been completely the opposite. I'm rewilding and unwinding. So that synergy that you talk about, that trinity, that triad that we have, whether it's with the inner marriage and creation, or whether it's with other people, it's palpable here. You can feel it in the breath, especially when you're meeting people. I've started dancing again. I've fallen in love with dance, and I've opened my voice. I'm singing. There's so much that's changed. So much that's changed. It's why I'm offline so much. I'm attending to life and then creating with God.
Yeah, I think there's definitely been more and more people stepping away from social media for time periods. We're all finding ourselves, and part of what's happening too is we're again witnessing someone find themselves versus judging what a person's doing or how they dress or what they represent or what they post. We're so used to seeing the mirror, and the mirror being, oh, I used to do that, or I don't do that, and probably in some sense we it's true, but at the same time, as you said, it still keeps going, and even though you had this huge kundalini and this whole journey, again, a lot of people can relate. It may not be exactly the same the way it sounds, but the fact is every time this happens, we gain a greater clarity for our things that we were missing, further things, but it gets a little less bitter and a little more sweet. And, for me, I'm coming to this place even today where, I'm recognizing that everything behind me is behind me. I can bring it if I want to, but it's kind of like you going back to England and feeling that, hey, I'm going to be gone a while, and putting everything away and getting rid of everything and going naked to this next adventure, right? I mean, there's a lot to be said for energetically, the lightness of being, I guess, like where you're at. That's to me is one of the great things, like having been in Hawaii, and just being able to walk out and be in that space, especially now. I can't even imagine, because that was 2019 for me. I can't even imagine in 2023 what it's like to be in a situation like you're in, although it's coming through the screen a bit.
It's beautiful. So I think with living here, I can't really open too much of it because I want Dalton here to share the thing about the island. Is the energy of the dragon is so palpable, and the story of this, Todd, would make a film. It is like you would not believe the synchronicities. This started 10 years ago. 10 years ago. So before the stuff that we'll talk about was even built, before either of us were on the island, it started 10 years ago with a vision that I completely dismissed in time and had forgotten about completely until one of our family reminded me. And then I was here 3 years ago, had a very strong experience 3 years ago when I was running away from my ego and my shadow and victim. I was fully on in the victim, fully on in the, why am I here? Like, I'm in paradise and I feel nothing. Like, what's wrong with me? I'm broken, and all of that stuff that we have to face. And certainly the island created some experiences for me to definitely face that and face my own suffering. And it was just before COVID. So I was faced with the decision to stay or go, just as everything was closing down, and I chose to go back for my kids. You know, my parents. It was the right decision, obviously. So I left the island, but I didn't leave the island at the same time. So here, I stayed in the heart of the island, part of me, working with the dragons. And so I feel it's the way I could describe things. Sometimes it's hard to find the words. My heart goes very expanded. It feels like like I totally know I'm Susanne. Like 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 all of the programs and stuff that we are like. There isn't really a getting over that one. Like, I'm human, but I'm aware concurrently of many different bodies, different dimensions, like especially like in God world. Space is more, it's not even like it has any construct that we can easily bring to word now. It's beyond geometry and sound and frequency. It's just it's like an amalgamation of senses, and you have it and you feel it in your entire being as like liquid structures. And that's what I'm coding now. I'm coding these liquid structures. So that is there all the time, even with the physical experience. So it doesn't come and go. It's not like I'm more connected or less connected. It's just there, but you are more dropped into the program, more immersed in here. The island and the land here, and the particularly my connection with the water and the fire element, the Azoth, is strong for me. So I feel both here really deeply in the heart of the island. So the heartbeat is always there. Like, I can feel the pulsing of the energy, and wider field, because the mountain here is very well, it's protected with like guardian, having a custodianship. Right. It's the guardian can be misunderstood. I have to be a bit careful and be careful. So we're just like custodians of the land, and because it's very sacred.
Right.
We've been asked to hold space for this, and to to anchor ourselves and work in creation. And I think wherever we land, I think everyone's spread out, and my take is that you don't have to do anything. Like, I understand and appreciate what I'm bringing. Many people don't even understand. They like look at a code and they're like, what do you or they listen to me talking and I'm like, you're off your rocker. You are like talking about these different dimensions and space. But ultimately, like, you could literally, like, with this amount of energy, you could just be making yourself a drink or cooking yourself some food if you eat food, and sitting watching the river, and you're in your beingness and breathingness and connectedness and appreciation, and the continual delamination of the structures of the miasma. There is no defined role. There is no defined role. I even believe that everybody who's having deep in the program, even mind control, they're all playing their part.
Right.
Like, it has to be. How could it be anything other than the most perfect symphony? And the more I've journeyed, I've taken some mycelium journeys in the last year. And in these journeys, I've been very specifically opened to see the huge modeling, and it can only give you the most glorious respect for creation, because you realize that you are like the thing that we think we're having this great ascension, and as this expansion, but we're just like little tiny dots and seeds of something that is in of a magnitude that is, you just feel grateful to take a breath in your body and feel that space. It's all there in, you know, in a banana, in a flower, in someone's eye, in a tear. That what we write about is just so totally true, because it just dissolves through time and space into infinite plasmic fields.
Yeah.
There is no end to this. There's no arrival. This moment is everything. It's everything. All we're doing is having the capacity for more and more, but in a presence. We're not distracted.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do mostly. It's mostly just what we've been conditioned to do, is experience this stuff as distraction and then identify with it. And because we're powerful creators and we identify with it and attach to it, we fall in. And then we believe that thing. So I am the, I was the in the, and I did that. And it's like, yeah, oh, okay, yeah. You know what? We did all of it. All of the parts, even the bits that we hate, even like the, you know, those guys knocking on the door that we don't like. It's like, we're
oh my God, you said a lot there. You said a lot there. But yeah, again, it's you can't put the universe in a box. I mean, and we're made in the image. I mean, everything is like you said. It's this, you know, love is free. Love is free. Like we don't constrict it. We don't hoard it. We don't hold on to it. It grows as it's, you know, shared. To me, that's the proper word, because, you know, like, okay, so like you just bring up so much stuff. Let me just try to get into it this way for a second. It also changes. It doesn't just change perception of what we call dark or whatever, you know, dark, or, you know, whatever we want to call it. It changes the perception of the light. So many of those things that we associated with of the light, we were too associated because it made us adverse to another part of us because we over identified with it. So this is part of the evolution too, you know. And so, like, for instance, like in terms of creating, since March the 1st, you know, and I've always kind of been on, you know, on the forefront, at least for myself in my life, in terms of creation and how the energy is transforming and working, and things like money and just different things, and how it works and how it has a different set of rules, and how taking steps in the equation of those rules, it actually begins to anchor and begins to become magical, and alchemical transformation takes place, and new earth is built, and so on. But it changed the way I went to work, so to speak, because in my work, until I had a higher level of awareness, and again, I still have work to do on myself, part of my daily machinations was in kind of a wounded healer frequency. Hey, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, so this makes me good. You know, I'm doing a good thing. And yes, that may be true, but it blinded me, or at least impeded my progress of what the new code can be, because the new code requires constant change and acceptance of a greater field. And that's why, for instance, you hear less now, or at least I see less now out there written about boundaries. You know, we need boundaries in order to find ourselves until the boundaries are no longer necessary, because we recognize everything outside of the boundaries is us, right? So all of these things are coming in at warp speed, you know.
I might speak into that. I might speak into that a bit, Todd.
Right, but not to mention the so it's almost like, I get it, and it might even leave your memory at the moment. But it's just like, okay, I'm not giving in to each step. Okay, I accept this now, and I believe this now, and I believe this now, and it's this whole structure thing that we did. It's more of just giving into this unspeakable, unnameable, undescribable thing that's happening, that really operates not in the words of explanation, but in the way your body lights up and feels, and the way you have these interactions with other people, and the Kundalini energy, the chi energy is felt and it's responsibly contained and shared even and emitted without the old programming of sexual distortion or power over, or you know what I mean? It's phenomenal. And I love it because it says to me, go forth. Like Sandra Walter says, you can either walk towards and build the new earth, or you can turn around and watch the old one burn. Well, talking about, trading war stories, how we afflicted each other, we've done it. It's done. The only thing keeping it here is if we still want to talk about it and watch it burn. I accept who you are today. You are not who you were yesterday. There's nothing to forgive because there's just not. I see you. That was fun. I will remember it always, but let's go see what we really are, Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have to see some of it.
Yeah.
Because some of it's shocking, like especially in a galactic partnership, you've got a mirror like flipping Nora's, you've got to see some of this stuff. It's shocking, but the point is non-attachment. I think that's the new way, is like we're recognizing it as a thing. If it comes up, it's because it's held. It's we're holding something, then we let it go with compassion, and we're non-attached to the story, to the affliction, the thing, the status, the body, the planet, the universe, whatever it was, what dimension it was, what role we played. We've literally, when we can stand in front of another being and you see the God body in another, and it's directly flowing, and it's flowing seamlessly without boundary, you are merged. That you absolutely know it in your whole being, that absolutely what you say is that this is the way, because every time we look back, we recreate it somewhere. The quantum field will recreate, and so it will create more traction and more for genetic potential for that to continue. And when we realize we are the creators of our own misery, it's like such a big change. It doesn't mean you're happy all the time, it doesn't, but it means you stop bypassing.
Right.
So you stop bypassing, you stop creating this shit. It's like, oh my God, here I am. Oh, I've got this food program here right now, and I need to go and get this thing to satisfy something. But actually, God, there's this place that's actually feeling quite uneasy in my body.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go and distract myself with something, a quick social media thing.
Right.
And instead, it's like I choose to go and parent that space, and the more that we do that, then the less armored it is, so the less boundaries there are. But what I wanted to say about boundaries is, and I do feel it's quite important, is where we're going to be and where we already are is that place of complete open energetic space. And if we are holding ourselves open, and I am definitely not there yet, but if we are holding ourselves fully open, we should be able to transmute anything that comes in the field, like real time, anything. There is no fear, zero fear for anything. Like there is nothing. You are not afraid of death anymore. Like death for me is like a breath. It's like life and death a trillion times over. What are you attached to? What body are you attached to? When you realize you've been merging and living with these reflections of God forever. It makes this little relationship in this moment so sacred in whatever being you're meeting or with. And that space for me is beautiful. But at the same time, there are many people who are listening to shows like this who haven't yet developed, they're not yet there, and they need boundaries. Boundaries are incredibly important. They're essential for us to learn. And if one of the biggest problems is, as empaths, as people that feel, is we lack boundaries. that's one of the biggest problems is we lack
Yeah.
boundaries. And so
Is
we
it's safe in
overserve.
here.
Yeah.
It's safe in
Overserve,
here.
overshare,
Yeah.
take on everyone else's shit. And then we think it's ours because we identify with it. We carry things, we attach to morphogenetic profiles and believe that's us. And,
Right.
you know, so for me, in sharing and in holding space in groups, like one of those fundamental things that I teach is like honor your boundaries, like learning to say no. Fuck no, just no. I don't need to give you an explanation. I don't need to justify it. Just no. Right now, for me, it's a no. And then if someone says that to you, it's like honor their no. It's so sacred, honoring, honor the boundary without feeling it's personal or hurting your ego or that they're judging you. It's just no. Right now, it's their no. And that for me, gosh, it's such a big thing in a space is where that is, because when you trust the boundary, you feel safe. And when you feel safe, you de-armor and you open, and so you are able to have less boundary and be more merged.
That's your a no. Somebody, Vanita just put up no as a complete statement, but the no is really your innocence. It's your authentic, it's your transparent. I was and I'm glad you brought that up, because I agree with you. I was thinking more in terms of boundaries as walls, like, in other words, a lot of times I see it over the years associated with a person or people, when people make posts and stuff. And I guess what I would kind of alter my statement, because there is two kind of connotations there, is that having the perspective that this is what I did anyway, is where I like put up this boundary, like don't talk to me, but knowing that it's on the back burner, and that I will get to a point where I have a level of awareness and perspective that I can now take it on in an effort to bring a greater oneness to myself and that which I'm engaging, so, but yeah, absolutely. There's no way to find yourself without creating the boundaries I'm referring to in the way you're talking about. There is absolutely no way. And we all know that it worked both ways. Sometimes we put a boundary up and thought, oh, I showed them, and then bam, we get hit with something that we didn't know that was our program that made us be charged and put the wall up, so, but it's a beautiful thing. Again, I find it so, even looking at the word humiliation, I don't see it the same now, because I know the humility goes with it. And all I got to do is go, in a certain sense, am I humble in regard to this aspect of life, or whatever it may be? Have you felt humiliation? Have you been to the depths, of self-degradation and whatever it may be, to be able to come out on the other side, which is another thing, because all of these seem to be following the same sequence. Somebody put it in words yesterday on the show, which is, it's that fear. Like going to the doctor when you're a kid and they pull out that needle and you're like, oh my God, no. And then they prick you with it and it's over. And what's happening, I think, as we approach it, it's all fear. It's like you said earlier, all that stuff is fear. And then you start to see it for what it is, instead of engaging it, going, hey, taking it personal, and realize that either they're in fear, and you can, like you said, you start to hold your breath, you count in your mind, you go quiet, you witness, or you realize you're in fear. And then you walk through that fear and you come out the other side. And every time we come out the other side now, and all the little ones and the big ones, man, that humility sets in, that relief comes in, that activation in the body. So many people are having massive things occur in their body, mucus coming out of their eyes and rashes, and my hair's falling out. But these are physical properties, and you talk to the biochemical Yeah, I mean, there's no question.
Yeah, it's changing the crystal. It's changing to a crystalline structure. It can't hold the level of toxicity that we have taken into our bodies, because the energy is like wound in. It's like a spring. That's why fascial release and myofascial release is vital. Like the changes in our diet are vital. But what I wanted to go back to there, Todd, was it's fear of intimacy.
Oh God.
It's just all this is this whole human condition.
Whoa, that's
everything.
Like, whoa, that's just like golden, sister. I mean, really, what is intimacy? What is intimacy? Intimacy is full fucking transparency. And the good news is, well, the bad news is it's a motherfucker. But the good news is we're getting there. We're slowly getting there. It's like a slow merge, you know, and we're actually getting there. And to me, that's the value. One of the great values, the greatest to me, is the mirror that you spoke of, because I can speak to that, and I know my partner can. But it's the multiplicity of the Trinity energy. You can't get to oneness with everybody else unless you can get to it with one person. You know, and then it becomes something that you can apply in everything. I experienced it and have for years in making music together spontaneously with another person or people, projects, you know, just the synchronicities of life, just the funny little things that happen when both, and you can speak to this as a practitioner, when the practitioner is open 360 degrees and the client is open 360 degrees, you have the Vesica Pisces, boom. And there's that energy is put out into the field. And like you talked about with the, you know, harping on the past and how that is replayed and it goes out into the morphogenic field. The same with this Trinity energy, but the Trinity energy is pure soul power. It's creative power, which you, as you spoke to, I keep getting chills, but you know, is materializing in the physical as well, right? Which is cool.
Yeah. We can't, the beauty of it is, I think, no matter how we roll with it, I call it wrestling the anaconda, you know, of your own creation, is, you know, no matter where we look, you're creating no matter where we look. And it just comes back to a fear of intimacy with God and with our own creation, self-love, and if we get into the practice of whatever we're doing comes back to that space, turn it inwards, turn it inwards, turn it inwards, without the whole shame, guilt, self-judgment, victimizer complexes, then it just is going to take you more deeper. It's just going to dissolve more armory. It's just going to bring more compassion, more humility. Because every time there is a trigger in the egoic framework or an overlay or even an implanted part, you know, that space is just the observation of something is enough to work that mechanism. So you're just, it's like a breath. It's so simple. And it enables you to, gosh, just love yourself. Like, where did we ever get shameful about loving ourselves? Like, what the fuck happened for us to forget that this vessel is a holy temple and a light ship of creation, or is the creator itself in manifestation. And when you said it many times, when we disrespect something or we judge something, we're not honoring creation, we're disrespecting that we're in the temple, we're in the cathedral of light already, in a holy marriage. We're at the altar, you know, the holy mother art, the holy father art, the holy father God, like before they're into the inner marriage. And that space is the only space really, but we're lucky when we have other beautiful synchronistic brothers and sisters around us, that where we're moving into that flow, it accelerates us. So with D, for us it's sound and creation. Like the sound for me, like I didn't realize the changes in the body, the changes I've made in my diet is very, very big. Very big. And the lifestyle is very big. So there are things that have happened as a result of those changes. So I
Right.
can sustain more energy. And so my body is, my bones are cracking, you know, my fascia is changing. I had an accident, I have to reframe that word. I had something that I created for myself in February, which has been a big teacher for me, huge teacher on the physical body. The things don't always shift straight away and they become your teachers. So
You're
what's
pointing to
helped?
your left shoulder. That happened to
Yeah,
me
it's
about
I
6 months
basically
ago.
I fell down. I really want to choose words carefully here because it's really important for my own soul.
Yeah.
So we were up on the waterfall a couple of days after we connected and remembered, full remembering, universe colliding, incredible amount of energy. So much open, wide open, go up on the waterfall and we're crossing the waterfall and it's not even got that much water in it, but enough. And I put my foot out to cross the waterfall. I'm normally pretty sure on rocks and stuff, and my leg slid from under me. I smacked down and I fell off 4 meters or so down the waterfall and really hurt my arm. But what I did was I relived us like split, like being prized apart when merged, like that. It just totally touched that energy. So it left open a wound of the fear of basically being split from God. That essentially, that's what it was manifesting. Yeah. And so as my biceps tore and it ripped my shoulder, and it created all of this learning curve, like so much stuff like around wings, shoulder points, anything, all my power in my arm, like all the energy that comes through in creation. So as a creator, I need both hands to create. I'm a dancer, I'm a weaver, you know, I'm an alchemist. So if I can't move my body, I don't feel like I can breathe. So that was a program. I'm breathing without breathing.
Right.
I had to go in there. I had to see all of the stories I told myself about what my creation was going to be in order to step into being, like you said so beautifully, free. Free. We're not fixed in anything. We're just being moved by creation. We're being breathed by creation. If we allow that to occur, then that's when it's not all the things we believe we are. This is just part of what we've done in surface. Where we're going is we're open, and that's when the greatest co-creations will start to arrive for us. And this is not just like writing codes or the higher constructs. This is like world changing stuff where we'll be able to re-alchemize and re-synthesize atomic structures on the planet. This is the inner technology. We're not going, a lot of the big story is about creation of outward technology right now. We're in machine tech, AI tech, quantum tech, biotech. This is the industry, you know, we've lived through this many times. It's not new. But the greatest tech is this tech. Right. Is this tech and the 0 point field and the quantum field technology that we actually have. And as we evolve as this crystalline body, this plasmic field is emerging, we become the technology. And through our co-creations, that it's already here. I think this is the thing. I mean, loads of people know it's here. It's not, we are creating it, but the creation's already here. It's already here. It always has been. We're in an infinite experience. So we've already created the creation that's here. Yeah, we were the creators. We are the God creators. Exactly. Of the creation.
The veils have always been the ones over our eyes. And that's what was part of the deciphering things, is because we can see others that have veils in a particular aspect of life, in their eyes, but we can also not see the ones we have. I mean, it just became So I think like what I was saying earlier, as we start to look at each other as the living flesh, souls, I understand that you're in a woman's body. I see that as a mirror of myself, because I'm in a man's body, and I may have more of a challenge seeing the feminine in myself. There's just a lot of ways to look at it. But nevertheless, and I tell this to people all the time, and I just find it, I tell myself this, that don't ever get too smart, because how do you know? How can you prove to me, and I prove to you, or I prove to myself, that when this physical body goes, that I'm not going to just be worm dirt? How do I know or not know? But what I do know is that I can prove that you and I and all the people here have experienced the human condition. We have felt pain and suffering and trauma. And we've reached a point now where we're starting to pull the gold out of it, and our whole perspective is changing. And to me, that's something that I wear more and more like a badge of honor, because I know not to consider ourselves hierarchical to the rest of the universal family, but this is our offering. This is our piece of the puzzle, just like the Arcturians have their piece of the puzzle, and the Pleiadians. And just as we have had to find our power and our sovereignty and our freedom and our wisdom and such, with those things we contended with through the human condition, we also have to do the same with these aspects. They are not God. They are a part of me. And some parts of me, depending on my journey through all my lives, speak louder than others and are biased and have certain specificities and things that they favor. That doesn't mean they're bad, but I may be in a certain place that it looks bad to me, or I overly accept it as a savior program. So we're making peace and unity. And, this came to me the other day. If you take any polarity, any at all, we've always thought that the 0-point field was a narrow strip right down the middle, when in fact it's the entire space. Okay, so, and of course we're coming to these things through these conversations and such, and interactions, where I believe is our highest coding or exchange and activations and downloads channel, whatever you want to call it. We're coming to a point now where we're also seeing living examples of people, all of us, walking the talk and being that. My mother is 84 years old this past month. We were disconnected for 6 years, and I'm hearing these stories. Us, the light workers, who have been, estranged from, loved ones. And so we've reunited, and it's been quite powerful in a very subtle, real way. Just like we're both in the same atmosphere of the field of this new earth. But she said something to me the other day. She said, I just can't eat. You know what I mean? Like, she's expressing things that we are. She doesn't know, she doesn't listen to shows like this, but her body's telling her, after having certain habits of eating such, no, you're not going to eat that anymore. And no, you can't eat that anymore. It's not going to taste good for you. Like, it's coming into everybody one way or the other. We got
that's amazing that it's amazing that that's your mum. The whole thing, it's very, I responded there because I felt it in my heart, because it's a very it's very personal in the field I'm in as well right now with the mum. The mother, I'm about to write a code for the mother and the repairing of that space. I've never done a full mother code. It's deep. It's deep, but isn't it beautiful that she's reflecting that? Wow!
Oh my God!
And the food program is absolutely front and center. I'm going to be sharing about this a lot, and about the journey, because I am for sure moving away from the food program.
The mother. And I didn't get this, and every time I do a show, something comes back. She's like, "You need to say this." The mother approached last year in the summer. She told me to go to Sedona on a whim, just one night, 2:00 in the morning. You're going to Sedona, and I was running a festival in Arkansas, like 2 months later, I'm like, why am I going to Sedona? But she had things in mind for me. But she said to me, you know what to do. Like she was talking about the next 6 months of that year, the end of last year. She goes, you know what to do. It will come to you. You go do it no matter what anyone says, including me. And I couldn't understand that. She was my biggest cheerleader, and she put me through some serious initiations. But her message to me came later, was that she had been corrupted. And she used like a computer tech type, example. Like the program itself that was put in here got corrupted. And that it was in order that I am corrupted as a result, as a masculine, informer, whatever, as her son, however you want to look at it. And she said, the only way you will come into alignment is to witness, hold space, and align with my purity. And then there was this whole thing where I had to go through the dark feminine, and she showed me everything. And it was just like, until I was in a space of unconditional love. So, what I'm getting at is, I think we forget sometimes, and I want to say this to the men, because there has been a lot of emphasis on gender. We know the divine feminine landed in 2012, and we heard about it for several years. But there was a part of us, in all of us, that we forgot, and that's the divine masculine. And he was also shrouded and suppressed, and he had to be the apparatus of the patriarchal. He had to do the raping and the killing. And that's a deep, deep program that our feminine within ourselves didn't know. And I believe it's starting to come out now, because there's a lot of equilibrium with masculine and feminine that I'm seeing. But what I was getting at, well, what I was getting at is that's how the mother returns. It's through all of us finding all of her in us. We think that the mother lands in a pink auric field, just sprays over the earth, and everything transforms magically without any recognition of the darker components that were just as necessary and relevant and reverent, right? And so it's mind-blowing. But for me, it's like the mother coming out of the heart through our heart projection, through our heart mind connection, and that's the experience as the come to Jesus meetings we have with ourselves, and the courage to admit to the things that come up in the hard discourse and brutal honesty of the soul. You don't know everything. Let me show you something you don't know today. You need a little more humility. Let me show you what's something, that alters your perception of yourself and brings you to a closer, alignment with your soul. What a powerful 90 minutes, Susanne Amara. Susanne Amara. Jesus Christ. I'm about to jump out of my body.
Yeah, so deep. I really felt the masculine as well. That's it's a big, it's a big part of what I'm witnessing as well, is the huge changes here in that space and within, not just the gender masculine, but yes, that, but obviously it's reflecting into everything there. A whole new show. It's a whole nother show. Just that one little share there is so deep, so vast, and it's definitely the dark mother is definitely, we've been clearing that in that template this week. It's been a big part, again through, because we're into Lionsgate as well, and coming into that powerful window, the reparation, even though it's already there is things moving with the Lemurian Atlantean stuff, and that's very much the dance. We're just being brought to the place. It's beautiful, and I'm so grateful to just be able to have this conversation and catch up and share and move, and
we have to stay in touch. And if you and your friend and decide you're going to be in the United States in December, don't forget about Houston, Texas. I think there's going to be a lot of people there. A lot of people are picking up intel on it. And my understanding is that we're all kind of building a ramp into 2024, and it's based on the Trinity energy and the win-win-win, and truly putting to into motion that all that we've done, which is to clear ourselves and then start to actually use this natural material that we use to create magic and alchemy and love, right? I mean, anyway, you're invited. Up to you.
Music.
Yeah, lots of music.
Lots of music that we'll come and share. And
Yeah,
share
half
a
of the
bit about
fest
what we're
is
doing.
music, just like the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And we got some really nice upgrades in technology, and just we've been doing the show every Monday night, me and Ty, and inviting people on, and it's the same thing. I mean, that's always been kind of Soulogy's thing, even before Soulogy Fest started to happen. We were rolling to a town and invite everybody in and see who wants to come up and give a testimony or light language or bring up your instrument, or let's have a spontaneous thing. The spontaneity is so important.
Yeah.
And the value of a live transmission or show or whatever is so powerful, because it's real time. And that's what I was going to say about the whole, am I worm dirt or am I actually an eternal soul? How do I know? It doesn't matter, because if I don't get it right here, I'm not getting it. It's right here, right? It is. It's beautiful.
I think also, like, we know, like, when you do that, so like you walk up to a bar, like you just put out your synthesizer and your mic, or someone's getting on the guitar, a few people are like doing whatever they're doing, is when it's coming in synergy, because of the energy now, because of that whole thing that's sped up, is everyone in the bar, no matter where they're at, like it could be like, here there's a lot of weed because it's legal, so there's a lot of people, like, they're just in their own field, doing their own thing and having a good time in their own way. They're all getting uplifted, they're all like, they're literally transmuting, they don't even know. It's like the power of it is it's self-clearing, self-clearing without really needing to do anything. So like, you're just dancing and enjoying yourself, and I'm in the ecstatic dance and I can feel the synergy. There's 200 people in a pyramid on top of the hill here on a Sunday. It's like, wow, it's my church, this is my church. This is my space, this is like, wow, like I'm totally open, like rocking my body, like moving my codes, like feeling it in my own body, in my own pillar, like not to influence anything, but I feel the whole thing moving like a pulse. It's like everything moves because of that collective field where everybody is. Even if someone was like out there to be a vampire or to siphon, like I've been in nightclubs here where people, like, you literally see everything. So there's like, active vampires, active demonic energies, and you see them, and there's no fighting, there's no conflict, you're just watching it all play out. So by being your whole complete God body and just being in your own joy, being in your own pleasure of expressing, that is creating something amazing. So I'm for this, I'm feeling very passionate about this creation, about where it's going to go, like, and how we move it, especially when we get less afraid of each other, because we're not so afraid of intimacy in that way. This isn't like, the old sexual type of energy. And even Tantra, it's not even then, it's completely in a higher space. I don't even like the word higher, it's just more connected, it's more synergized. There is a reverence, there is such a reverence for the way that we can move and create and dance, because we're moving with the elements of creation, we're moving with the codes. So we begin to feel we're not in that dark controller anymore.
Right.
We can still be the alchemist, but without, it's like, I need to fix that, I need to change that. No, your body's just moving that energy because the creation is moved, and that you're in your pillar there. as much as you can know. Like you said, like, how do we know? Well, the truth is we don't, do we? Not truly. Like, it's only there when it's there in the moment, and we could wake up and be lying on a leaf in another universe, having had a dream that lasted a second, and it was this whole universe.
Right. Yeah, we're all sitting around a big table taking bong hits.
Yeah, it's like we just simply don't. We just, whatever people want to argue it, like, and obviously there's a lot of shared gnosis, but the shared gnosis, and even the questioning of what is God, like the feeling and the questioning of like what is the consciousness. We have to accept the paradox, because otherwise we can't explore it. If I don't know, because if we rely on the I do know because that's my gnosis, then that can become your container. And I don't want a container. I don't want to be limited. I don't want to fall into the traps anymore. I want to remain as open as I can be and work on that openness and work on that softness. But with it, the accountability on the responsibility that we have.
Well, that's right. That's why it can be. That's why it can be an anaconda or a or kundalini, you know. But you know, it's funny. It's funny. In the original Soulogy studio, somebody gave me a disco ball. So I had a disco ball, and on that disco ball, it was obviously round, and it had those little squares, facets, faces, right, all around the ball. And it was a beautiful thing, right? And so when you were talking about the dancing, because that was important to me whenever you woke, it kept my soul here. But I just pictured us as you were talking about it, as disco balls, like you know what I mean? That's actually projecting light below us around, you know what I mean? 360 degrees, and how when you're in that, I don't know, it's just like something about having all the facets on it mirroring back to me different perceptions. You know, in other words, I can put myself in everyone's shoes. This is the place where I'm at. This is what's given me this oneness and allowed me to be a conduit and channel through my dance or whatever it may be. And as a physical kind of example of our bigness, you know, our vastness. It's like we're an orb that's just projecting, and many of us have had, you know, interactions with orbs. There's a reason there's so many orbs. You know what I mean? They're like full of, they're universes, or probably multiverses, right? And that's what we are. I mean, this is multiverse. This is amazing. Sitting with you is amazing, and I just want to tell you thank you for what you're doing, and being open to discuss it, because so much of this coding that we're getting collectively now is coming through the storytelling, in a good way, just like the oral traditions and the oral history that have still remained intact from thousands of years ago. This is our roots, you know, our ability to be transparent and share, not for any other reason but love. So thank you very much, and all blessings to you and what you're doing there, and your friend. Next time.
Yeah.
Love you.
We have shared online, and
no, it's I want to say that
had a group,
we're gonna have a big announcement. We're gonna have a big announcement, like advertise it like 4
it's
weeks
powerful. It's powerful, but there's also a lot of integration.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the most important thing, is respecting and honoring that.
Well, you spoke to that,
integration.
And you spoke to that, and you know, why would it be any different? You know, I mean, people obviously have approached me and Morgan about, you know, different things about that type of relationship, and why would it be any different that we have, as individuals, have come to have a newfound respect and reverence for our shadow, our triggers, our internal triggers of self, right? Why would it be any different with a couple? If we're, you know, we're finding unity within ourselves through the gold of our shadows, and we do the same, and we start to look at things different and look at each other different. And again, it's just programming, and we're letting it all go. And Pretty soon we'll all be in the jungle and running around naked, dancing with our partner.
Yeah, that's it. Well, also, I think the labels as well, like for us, the first thing that came was like, the we'll talk about it, I guess, like what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
Yeah,
like, I didn't even comprehend it. I couldn't even comprehend the magnitude of it. So like, it's suddenly you're dropped into all these labels, relationship, partnership, union, Harris Gammas, like they're all the stuff that's been pushed around and attached to. And the first thing that I felt most strongly in my body was to release from that.
Yeah.
And then have to face all of my own constructs. So the very first thing was facing all the constructs and all of
so much for the honeymoon.
Deep places that we've been programmed to all the conventions, like, and then you start to look at it and you're like, my fucking God, like, what is it I've been doing in my life? Like, I was married for 26 years. Like, what was that? What was that? Like, when I actually got to look at those things, like, it's like you dissect them and you're just seeing the degree of like the codependence we created in ourselves. And this is about freedom and liberation. Right. This is about us like honoring completely our own body. This isn't about anybody else, really. It's about inner marriage. Place with God is place. And
she's crying the frequency.
I think that is the first stage. I don't know.
You're blowing up the internet.
Or not. Sorry, I think I might have dropped off.
No, it's okay. Hey, listen, I'll see you. I'll see you down the road for sure.
Like briefly, and the end is just.
Go ahead. I know you're. I think the.
Honor.
Love you, Susanne. I'm sorry. I love you, Susanne. Didn't mean to mispronounce your name. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. We'll see you tomorrow and the next day and the next day after that. And yeah. All right, let's go integrate this one. It was a good one. Take care.